Welcome to this month's Family Forum, a program we do with the Sioux Falls School District and Avera on topics for mental health and wellness that are important to parents. All of us struggle sometimes with challenges, whether it's making a sports team, learning a new subject in school, or making new friends. There are ways parents can help to support children through these opportunities and the challenges. Today we're joined by two experts who are going to help us navigate this and give practical tips that all parents can use. So I want to welcome Hannah Scouten. She's a counselor at Laura Wilder Elementary and clinical therapist for Avera, Heidi Thomas. Thank you both for being here today.
Yeah, thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you.
So this is a really big topic for us to break down today, but I think it's so relevant and important for parents. So Heidi, I'm going to start with you. And can you tell me what having a growth mindset means for children, and why is it important for parents to understand this?
And for sure, this is a great question and something that I get asked a lot about in therapy. And it's a common, really important question that parents need to think through. So having a growth mindset for a child, it really means that they believe in their talents, intelligence, and abilities, and that they believe that through effort and hard work and perseverance that they're able to obtain their goals.
That's great. So Hannah, what are some things that parents can do at home to help children develop a growth mindset?
I think a big thing is giving kids opportunities to try things and not shutting it down right away because maybe the first little try didn't go well, or maybe you really, as a parent, don't like something, so you're not going to have your children or your child try it. But I think that is a huge thing. It's just giving kids opportunities to try all sorts of different things.
And as they're trying things don't always go as planned. So Heidi, a lot of kids, especially in Sioux Falls, sports teams are hard to make. Sometimes friendships don't last for kids. So how can parents help kids view mistakes or those challenges as opportunities to learn? What can we do with those coping skills?
For sure. So I really encourage families and caregivers, the adults in these children's lives, to really think of these things as learning opportunities and opportunities to grow, rather than points of like defeat or failures. And so when we think about like growth mindset or developing resilience, these kids are modeling after the adults in their life. And so for example, maybe they didn't make the sports team, but I also encourage parents to incorporate or integrate the word yet into their vocabulary. So you didn't make maybe the cheer team yet, but there's always next year or there's next season. And then giving parents an opportunity to just have that open communication and dialogue with their child to just help support that growth mindset, and through being curious and through kind of problem solving and troubleshooting in just the day-to-day challenges. I think that will also really help kids feel more empowered and like they're taking ownership of their own selves.
And I always encourage parents too to kind of think about like what else is there. Like in high school sports, my son loved basketball, but there's only one team when you get to sophomore year, and there's only like about 10 kids that can make that team out of a huge school like Lincoln. So it's like, can you play Y-ball? Can you do, just pick up basketball and things like that? Are some of those things helpful too, to look for other outlets to kind of keep those skills up?
I definitely think so, yes. I think obviously there's a lot of competitiveness within the Sioux Falls School District when it comes to sports or leagues or things like that. And so again, it's just like you said, like it's offering a different idea or a solution so that they can still really stay engaged. They still get to do what they love, and maybe they will make the team at a later time, and maybe they won't. And it's not the end of their world if they don't. It's more just an opportunity for them to maybe pivot and think about a different way to continue to do something that they love.
And Hannah, sometimes it's more about us as parents and our expectations and how we're approaching it. So what do you do when parents expect more out of kids than they're physically or mentally able to do at that point in time?
I think like praising and talking with the kids about like their qualities as a human instead of their abilities is super empowering for children, and just saying you're working so hard at this, or I love how you're trying, or, not, oh, you made the team, way to go. Like, that's not necessarily the thing that we're proud of. We're proud of all of the work that they're putting in, and those are the things that we want to foster in our kids.
Like things like sticking to practices.
Right.
Or being a good teammate.
Right.
Are those things?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and being a good teammate, that's always so important for kids. And my husband is a basketball coach, and he always says about how, yes, the kids that are super good at basketball is really important, but also the kids that can encourage each other and, know how to work hard and know how to take coaching from their coaches, super important. Mm-hmm. He also was a teacher, and so, then in the classroom, the same thing, like the kids who are able to try the math problem that's hard, or try to write the paper, that's what we need out of kids, and that's how they're going to grow into a successful adult. Mm-hmm. Because math class doesn't last forever, the sports team doesn't last forever, but the skills that we can learn in learning how to come at challenges, mm-hmm. those are the skills that'll take you far.
That's so true.
Agreed.
Anything to add, Heidi?
Yeah, I really appreciate that perspective, Hannah, and I think that that is so true. I think when we're thinking about kind of the end in mind when raising our children, mm-hmm. It isn't about what basketball team are they going to be on, because those things are temporary. Mm-hmm. It's really about the character qualities and the opportunities that kids are learning to solve problems independently, but also know how to interact with their communities. Mm-hmm. And those are all really, really important skills that we as adults use every day. Mm-hmm. And the only way our children are going to learn how to do that is by practicing.
Yeah, right. So absolutely. And I think too, like, when I'm looking at my kids, like, I remember what it felt like when I did not do well in mm-hmm. like high school math or something, and I don't want that hurt for my kids, and so mm-hmm. I want to take it away from them, but I also know that I learned a lot of really good life skills when mm-hmm. I was working through that hard math class or something, and mm-hmm. more importantly, I want my kids to have those skills than being able to take that hurt and frustration away, I guess.
For sure.
I think especially with high schoolers, things feel so permanent at that moment of time, mm-hmm. but it's temporary. As an adult, you can look back and be like, oh, that was just a temporary challenge that led me to this, but they don't have that, perspective yet.
Right, yeah, everything is so big and so like, this is it mm-hmm. when you're that age.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, do you have any more practical tips for practicing mm-hmm. that resilience? Like, how do you put this into practice on a daily basis?
Sure. Well, I think, again, for better or worse, our kids are following what they are being modeled. Mm-hmm. And so they're looking at the adults in their life. They're looking at their parents, their grandparents, their teachers, their coaches, their school counselors, and they're modeling after what they're witnessing, and they probably don't even know that, honestly, depending on what developmental stage they're in. But these kids really do mimic and shadow us, and so it's really important for parents and caregivers in these kids' lives not to be perfect, right? Because that's completely unattainable mm-hmm. and not at all what we want to convey to parents, because no one is perfect. But we do want to just encourage the adults in these kids' lives to really be thinking about, how am I modeling a growth mindset to my kids at home? Mm-hmm. How am I working through my own frustrations as an adult? I really like the idea of having really open communication between parent and child. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's, a parent is making dinner and the child is doing homework in the kitchen or debriefing about their day. That happens a lot at my house. And so our kitchen and dining room, like our hub kind of, and there's a lot of activity that happens between, that 6 and 8 mark. And maybe a parent's like, oh, I forgot this ingredient that I needed for dinner. And so we're voicing that frustration, like, now what am I gonna do? And if we're actually verbalizing like the steps that we're going through, okay, well, maybe forgot the onions, but I have onion seasoning, so I'm gonna substitute that. Our little kids are thinking, wow, like, okay, they're seeing it, even if their brains aren't mm-hmm. figuring out that's what we're doing. They are witnessing mm-hmm. those firsthand steps. And it's also, I think, another practical idea is, aside from just open communication, is also validating feelings. I think that we kind of live in a society where we talk a lot about feelings now mm-hmm. versus when I was a kid. Like, we didn't really talk about our feelings much. It was just an afterthought. But I do think that there's a lot of value in expressing our feelings appropriately and recognizing that feelings are just that, they're just feelings, and they come and go and they change all the time, and it doesn't necessarily influence the decisions we're making every day, but it's more just kind of a gauge on how we're doing. And so when we can talk openly about, Mommy's feeling really frustrated today because I forgot this thing for dinner, or had a really bad day at work. And we don't have to get into the details, with our kids about those things, but we can at least be modeling our own management of our emotions, so that our kids really have some healthy examples to go through. I also like to encourage parents, like maybe there's something that sticks out from your childhood. And if you have a teenager in the house like I do, they're gonna roll your eyes like, oh, I don't wanna hear another story from mom about when she was a kid, but
More sinks in than you realize.
yes, those stories though are important. And they can serve as a really good compass for our kids, to just be mindful, like what you were saying earlier, like hindsight's 20/20. Mm-hmm. And we don't have all the answers, but we can continue to show our kids that we're willing to learn and grow through different areas of our life.
Something that's really powerful that I have learned as a parent too is like, it's okay to say you're sorry to your kids because you make mistakes too. And I think as a parent, you always feel like, oh, I need to be in control. But it's like sometimes that helps them to see even mom and dad make mistakes and they're always looking up to their parents. So
Absolutely.
And I think that's super important to like show your kids that mistakes are just a part of life. Like it's gonna happen all the time. Life can be a real bummer sometimes, and we gotta figure out how we're going to navigate around that. Right. And so, just like you were saying, like, how am I gonna fix the onion problem with supper? Like working through the steps out loud or with your kids even, just to show them problem solving and how we can figure this out, and it doesn't have to then ruin the rest of our evening.
Absolutely. I love that you brought up that apologizing piece too, because like I said, parents are not perfect. Our kids obviously are not perfect. But when we take ownership of our own behaviors and actions, and work to repair that relationship or work to repair when we did make a mistake, it's showing a lot of personal responsibility, and again, highlighting an opportunity for kids to take personal responsibility for the decisions in their life, instead of letting life just kind of happen and them to feel like a victim of it. We can really empower them to reframe that idea.
Yeah, and I always, like, as I've had a teenager, I always try to tell him, my reactions sometimes are temporary and I make mistakes, but my love for you is forever. Just so that he knows, like, this is a mistake, but that's not how I'm going to feel tomorrow.
Yes,
so.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's about the relationship that we have with our kids, ultimately. And so when we've developed that relationship, from birth on, those repairs are a little easier.
Yes.
And I think our kids are really, really forgiving and understanding of the caring, supportive, bigger, wiser, kinder kind of adults in their life.
Yes.
So
Yep. I agree with that 100%. Yeah.
And Hannah, there are going to be times when parents do need to step in. There's a situation that kids are either not mature enough to handle, or there's something that's just wrong that's going on. So how do you know as a parent, like, when to step in, or when you might be overreacting or seen as like the helicopter parent kind of thing?
I know, that's hard, figuring that out. And I think like letting your kids know that you're there and reminding them, if you need help, I'm right here. And maybe reminding a second or a third time, I'm here to help. Do you want me to do this? Asking, do they want the help? But then if they continue to say, no, I got it, but they clearly don't got it, being able to say, you know what, as the parent, we need to help you fix this problem, or we need to help you learn how to do this. But I do think constantly reminding your kids that you're here, you're willing to help, you're able to help, and then being okay watching for a little while, but then, if they're starting to skid a little bit, to step in and just say, as the parent, I'm going to step in now and I'm going to help.
For sure. And I think too, just like what Hannah is saying, is just coming alongside of your child, and your child the best. And so really just kind of scaffolding and supporting them along the way. It really depends on the age too. Are we talking about, a 6-year-old, or are we talking about a 12 or a 17-year-old? And but either way, yes, I think as the parent, like, definitely kind of tuning into some of the struggle and making a plan with them.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, and I think too, like reminding your kids too that like stepping away for a second is okay. You know, like let's just take a break. Let's go, you know, whatever. Listen to your favorite song, or let's go run around the block, or you know, whatever it would be. Because sometimes just kind of getting all of that out of your body and then coming at it, you know, 10 minutes later can be really helpful too.
Absolutely. I think that those are really good coping skills for parents to integrate. And I mean, I know I need a break every once in a while when I'm feeling flooded or overwhelmed.
Right, absolutely.
And it's like, I had to step away and know what I can do well right now and what I can't.
Right.
So.
And resilience also takes motivation to get through that obstacle and to keep working on it, not quit every time something gets hard. So how do you work with that, Heidi, especially in older kids? Like once they get over that age of 12, they start to have more of their own opinions. They can kind of do more with their own day. Like how do you help with that motivation piece?
Yeah, I think that motivation piece is interesting kind of to talk about. I think there's different schools of thought about motivation and how we can create. I'm of the mindset that we create like an intrinsic kind of motivation within our children. And I think that that starts at a really, really early age. But then there's other ideas, you know, well, maybe if I bribe my child enough or create some tangible pieces, you know, of, you know, reward systems or sticker charts or things like that, it will create an intrinsic motivation. I don't necessarily think there's a right or a wrong way to go about it necessarily, but I do think that when we look at creating like those goals and having motivation wrapped into those goals, it's celebrating the process more than it is celebrating the end result. So, I mean, the end result is great also to get there, but it's every step of the way. So maybe your child came home with a 2 out of 10 on their spelling test, and you know, you as the parent are feeling like a failure. Like, gosh, what is wrong? Like, why can't my kid figure this out? Well, maybe talking to them about, you know, what are the challenges here in the spelling test? Like, let's break it down. Let's make a plan. And then next week they get a 4 out of 10. I think a parent could be disappointed that, gosh, it's still a 4 out of 10, that's a failing grade. But instead they could reframe it and say, oh, but they improved by double a week later. And so it's really honoring and saying like, hey, like you worked really hard, look at you doubled your score. What can we do this next time to keep that going? So I think just acknowledging some of the hard work through the process can create that motivation in a child. And children ultimately, like, they hang on our words and they are watching us and they know when we're feeling disappointed in them and when we aren't, even if we don't verbalize it. It's just like kids are so smart and intuitive and they really tune into their caregivers. And so I think the more opportunity we have again to just come alongside of them and celebrate the small wins, have open communication, model healthy behaviors in the home. And then also, you know, I'm a big fan of just bringing in other healthy adults into our kids' lives to support them along the way. And that can be through teaching, coaching, you know, other adults in that child's life.
And we've talked a lot about parental support. So Hannah, how do you help like form independence? And I think this has really changed. Like when I was a kid, my parents, I don't even think came with me to my college visit and things like that. I mean, we were just allowed to like have a lot more leeway than maybe our kids do today. So how do you help to foster that sense of independence today?
That is a good question. I would say so my kids are littler and, you know, they're joining like a little sports team or whatever. And I just want to sit and watch and just make sure everything is okay. And my husband is good at reminding me like they are okay. Like, step back a little, you know? But I think as parents, like that's natural. Like we want to make sure things are safe and we know the world that we live in and we know that things are not safe a lot of the times. And so we want to protect our kids from that, and that's good. But also when you're in a situation where you do trust the other adult that they're with, making yourself take the steps back, go sit in the car, you know, right around the block if you need to, you know, whatever it is, to force yourself to let your kids know, like you're coming back to get them, you know the adult that they're with, like you have all of the safety things covered, and now you're trusting them to do it on their own. But it's hard.
Yes. I can speak a little bit to that as having, I have 3 kids and they're all in different stages developmentally 8, 13, and 17. And so it's such a process. And I think that we as parents kind of know our kids the best, and we know their personalities, and they also kind of prove through their actions over the years, like when they're ready for, say, a phone, or when they're ready to have, a special privilege, or, and every child is a little different. And so I would just really continue, like what Hannah's saying, like check your own anxiety, right? And then also tune in and trust kind of the process, but also allowing our kids to make mistakes while they're still under our roof can be really, really good learning opportunities before they leave and move out. And obviously they're gonna make mistakes, like everyone does as an adult. But I'm a big fan of letting them kind of have some opportunities when they're young and as they continue to grow to just learn. And we might be saying as parents, like, oh, slow down, that is not going to work. But as long as they're safe, right? Like we want to assess like safety, healthy, things like that. Then overall, like I think it's good to let them make some decisions, even if you are in the back of your head thinking, this is going to be a learning experience.
Right.
A lot of times it's with clothes experimentation.
Yeah,
First of all, like, that
Yes.
doesn't match, but we're okay.
Right.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes. Like, okay, you're going to wear that today. That'll be really interesting to see how that goes, kindergarten versus 5th grade or
Right.
whatever. But again, barring that they're safe, and we've removed those concerns. And I think it's great, like what Hannah's saying, like, let them kind of live a little and see where it lands.
Like one thing, maybe a practical example. So when I was growing up, I remember my parents always had us, like whenever we would go out to eat, we had to order, like as kids, like we had to, and they helped us and they were there. And so then I brought that like forward with my own children, and ordering takes a while at a restaurant, and that's okay. Like, and I have to remember that's okay. Like, I'm not creating a huge problem for the waitress. Like she's ready to, just stand here and she's ready to wait. But giving my kids the opportunity to do something for themselves with my husband and I right there next to them is empowering for them, and it's showing them that they can do something hard and that they can talk to an adult, and get us being able to be right there and say, nope, remember, look at the waitress, or, tell them what you want. Oh, he didn't hear you, say it a little louder. But those kind of experiences when kids are younger, then that just translate as they get older. They just have more of that like self-worth and, motivation maybe to do things on their own.
So you've had some great tips today. And Hannah, like the school counselors impress me so much at my kids' schools because they really see them every day when parents aren't around with their struggles with friends, with schoolwork. How can parents partner with their counselors to get additional tips if they need it after the show?
Yeah, sure. So if parents do have questions, we always encourage them to call the school and ask to talk with the counselors. We do have resources that we can give to you for other places in the community. We have things that we can give you like to try at home. And the other thing that I would say is I love when parents will sign a release so that we can talk with some of the other agencies that they are working with, so that, if you're seeing a child outside of school and working with the parent, then as the school, I can come in and all 3 of us can be working on the same thing, and the kid is hearing the same thing in all 3 places. I think that's super important to be able to all work together in that way.
And Heidi, that's really what your role is at Avera with the school district, is to help to form some of those relationships and to help to connect the dots for students. So do you want to tell us about some of the other resources available to parents?
Sure, yeah, I'd love to. So I lead the Avera Family Wellness Program, and we have a partnership with the Sioux Falls School District in Avera, and we have licensed clinical therapists that are going into 6 partner schools, all elementary level, and offering that individualized clinical therapy support to students that are referred to them. And so, these are kind of above and beyond services that maybe the school setting could provide. And there are times definitely that it is warranted for a child to seek out the support of another licensed professional who really can specialize in a little bit more of a deep dive into that mental health, social, emotional learning. The wonderful thing about our program is that we also collaborate with families and the entire school. So like what Hannah was saying, we always have that release of information and consent to treat in place so that that therapist can really communicate with the child's classroom teacher or the school counselor and behavioral support teams and that family. So it's a really wonderful, like collaborative kind of wraparound approach that ultimately supports the student. We also have a brand new program that has started in additional schools in the district called Rooted, and that's also providing mental health therapy services through Avera therapists that will be full-time at these school sites, which again removes a lot of barriers to access for mental health care.
And really is there to help support the school counselors that they're already working with, and just kind of that additional level to parents not having to go off site to get therapy. Is that right?
Right. And I think too, a good thing for parents to remember, and honestly myself as a school counselor, is my primary role is like I'm there to help the child learn in school, and I'm there to give supports for learning. And that's why then we have people like you, like a clinical mental health specialist, to come in and work on more of the mental health stuff and not necessarily the things related to learning quite as much.
Right.
Does that make
Absolutely,
sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we talk a lot about growth mindset in the kids that we work with, so that then we can send them back into the classroom after 40 or so minutes, hopefully with some new coping skills to manage, say, anxiety or manage just challenging behaviors, and get them right back into that classroom setting so that they can continue their education. And that's ultimately our goal at the end of the day, is to make sure that these kids are healthy enough to continue to learn and integrate well in their school communities.
Which is what we want. Like, you know, that's the goal of school, is to learn and be able to grow that way. So
Well, I've learned a lot from both of you. Thank you so much for being here today and talking about this important topic. And if you want additional resources, you can go to the counseling tab on the Sioux Falls School District website or visit avera.org.